Namaskaram and a very good evening to all. We will start our session. See, when we are trying to understand the Vikriti or Vikriti Vijnaniyam, the most important thing is that we should have a thorough idea about the Prakriti, which is normal. So, without a correct understanding of the normal, it is impossible to understand the Vikriti. And as far as the basic principles, what we are discussing continuously are concerned, these basic principles cannot be listed out in a paper 1, 2, 3, first basic principle, second basic principle, third basic principles. And you cannot use them straight away, one after the other, then the next in the clinical training or clinical practice. Then why should we learn the basic principles? It is of not that use. Then why should we spend time? There is an allegation that the students are spending a lot of time on understanding the basic principles. So if that is of no use, what is the meaning of spending time on it? So we should not think that these are going to be listed out 1, 2, 3, 4 and going to be applied one after the other, then the next in a day-to-day practice. Then what are these principles doing? It is about, I have used the word many times earlier, it is about the prajna samskaranam of the clinician. Repeatedly understanding, working, going deeper and deeper into the basic principles is a way of prajna samskaran, which is essential, without which a student, a learner, a seeker will never ever develop the type of vision, perspective that he is supposed to develop to see the things in a particular style, in a particular light. This is very, very important. And with this prajna, Samskrita prajna, it is a conditioning. Some prajna samskaranam is a condition. With the prajna conditioned in this way, you can see things in this way. If the prajna is not conditioned in this manner, you will never ever be able to see things in this manner. So we should learn to understand, to perceive the normal, the prakriti with a particular viewpoint, with a particular angle of vision. That is actually what we lack. So that is why we are, even though we are trying to explain Vigriti Vijnaniyam, we are not able to touch that topic. We are repeatedly working on the Prakriti Vijnaniyam. In our last session, we saw that certain things. First of all, the basic nourishing material derived out of Ahara Sara is Rasadhadu. This Rasadhadu is subsequently converted to other dhadus. Then what? There is a specific pattern followed in this process. What is that pattern? Each dhadu has its own bhautika fingerprint. Each dhadu has its own specific bhuda-based fingerprint. That is a programmed, prefixed pattern in which the bhudas are going to align, associate to make that particular dhatu. And this pattern, the specific bhautik fingerprint of each dhatu, is the unique ID, is the Aadhaar card of each dhatu. The bhutas, or more specifically the bhuta gunas, nourish the same bhuta gunas of the dhadus. The bhuta gunas, that is received from the ahara, they nourish the same bhuta gunas of the dhadus, but the bhautika fingerprint of each dhatu is always preserved. It is the swabhava of that dhatu. Swabhavam is nityam. Swabhavam is nityam. And based on the bhautik fingerprint, each dhatu can be seen to have a specific pattern of bhuta gunas. And accordingly, the presence of specific doshas can be identified or marked in each dhatu somewhat very clearly. I repeat, based on the bhautik fingerprint, each dhatu can be seen to have a specific pattern, spectrum of bhuta gunas, and accordingly, the presence of specific doshas can be marked in each dhatu very clearly. And this is the basis of what we see as the ashraya-ashrayi relationship between dhadus and doshas. Dhadus are the ashrayas and doshas the ashrayis. So there is a specific pattern. Accordingly, you can make out what is dosha that we have discussed. Now, you may be able to suggest the possible bhautika fingerprint of each dhatu, taking various factors into consideration. It is an exercise, need not be true always or ultimately. It can change when you learn more and more. Your own appreciation about the Bhuda fingerprint of a dhatu may change. But ultimately, this should all be tested by the applications. Just for the sake of understanding, I can propose the bhaudik fingerprint of each dhatu. Say, for example, what I would propose, rasa. Rasa. I propose a sequence. What is that? First one is the most predominant, next, third, next predominant, like that. So, the first one is the topmost. That way, in rasa dhatu, I may propose that jala, tejas, bhumi, vayu, akasha as the fingerprint of rasa dhatu, the bhautik fingerprint of rasa dhatu. About rakta, tejas, jala, bhumi, vayu, akasha. This is a proposal. For mamsa, bhumi, jala, tejas, vayu, akasha. The same for medas also. That is bhumi, jala, tejas, vayu, akasha. For asti, vayu, bhumi, akasham, jalam, tejas. Majja, jalam, bhumi, tejas, vayu, akasha. Same thing for shukra. Jalam, bhumi, tejas, vayu, akasha. So the first one is the richest presence. Last one is the poorest presence. This is a proposal. And this example can change with deeper understanding. So from this picture, when we find the statement tatrasthani sthido vayu pittam tu sveda raktayoh shleshma shesheshu tena ishamashrayashrayinam mithah yadegasya tadanyasya vardhanakshapanaushadham. When we find that statement, we should visualize this bhaudik fingerprint of dhadus. There can be subjective variations about the quality of the ingredient bhudas, about the quality of the ingredient bhudas, and the severity of engagement between them in the dhadus, or the gravity of engagement between them in dhadus. But there shall be no variation in the bhaudik fingerprints of each dhatu. That statement I would like to repeat. when we find the statement tatra asti nisthido vayu pittam tu sweda raktayoho etc etc, we are visualizing this bhaudik fingerprint of the dhadus, and the point is there can be subjective variations about the quality of the ingredients. The quality of the bhumi participating in the formation of medo dhadu in the person called X, and the quality of bhumi participating in the formation of medo dhadu in another person B may be different. But that fingerprint is not going to change. The most predominant bhuda in the medo dhadu of both persons A and B are going to be the same. Similarly, the quality of engagement between them, say bhuda, jala, tejas, vayu, agasha forms the medas of A. So there is a particular gravity or grade of engagement between the bhuda, jala, tejas, vayu, agasha of the medas of A. In B, the gravity of this interaction may be different, but the fingerprint is not going to change. The fingerprint is not going to, because that fingerprint is the fingerprint of bhuda engagement in the medo dhadu of a human being. That is going to be the fingerprint of the medo dhadu of a human being. And that is how the samanya vishesha concept is operating in human body. Maybe on a gross level or in an overgeneralized level. Vriddhi samanaihi sarvesham viparitair viparyayaha. That is the baseline understanding in this regard. When we come to the ashraya ashrayi relationship, rasa, mamsa, medas, majja, and shukla. These are the ashraya dhadus of kabha dosha. Rasa, mamsa, medas, majja, and shukra are the ashraya dhadus of kabha dosha. Means bhumi and jala will be predominant ingredients in these dhadus. That is why we are able to see, identify, demarcate, appreciate the presence of kabha in these dhadus. So we find 5 dhadus here, all with predominant presence of bhumi and jala. But there are differences in the dominance of bhumi and jala in these 5 dhadus. On a general basis, we say that all these 5 bhutas are having predominance of bhumi and jala, but there are differences in the dominance of bhumi and jala in these 5 bhutas between them. Say, for example, bhumi is very high in mamsa and medas, supported by jala, whereas jala is very high in rasa, majja, and shukra, supported by Bhumi. In Mamsa and Medas, Bhumi is very high, supported by Jala. Whereas in Rasa, Majja and Shukra, Jala is very high, supported by Bhumi. And the way in which other three bhutas operate in each of these dhadus, that is also very crucial. That is also very crucial. And that is why, even though we have similar fingerprints for Mamsa and Medas, Mamsa is becoming Mamsa and Medas is becoming Medas. So, all these 5 dhadus are ashrayas of kapha, and that is a samanya between them. That is a samanya between them. But each one will be keeping its own fingerprint intact. Each one will be keeping its own fingerprint intact. As I mentioned earlier, we find Mamsa and Medas as having similar Bhuta distribution. But here too, even though the gross picture is similar, the subtle grading of gunas will be different. The subtle grading, taratama classification, taratama or taratamya vikalpanam of gunas will be different, giving unique or visheshata for each of them. So there is a gross level of samanyata. What is that? These 5 are ashraya of kapha. That is a gross samanyam. But taking that samanyam for granted, we should understand that there are differences between these 5 when we consider the taratamya vikalpana of Bhuta gunas of each one of them. So that is about ashraya of kapha. Now, Rakta is the dhadu with a unique predominance of Agni supported by Jala and Bhumi. Rakta is a dhadu with a unique fingerprint where Agni is supported by Jala and Bhumi. And this makes, so we can see Pitta through this fingerprint. It's a see-through arrangement. So, Rakta is becoming the ashraya of Pitta. Rakta is becoming the ashraya of Pitta. Coming to Asti. What is happening in Asti? There is a unique predominance of Vayu supported by Bhumi and Akasha. Vayu supported by Bhumi and Akasha. And because of this combination, Asti is the ashraya for Vada dosha, the single dhadu which accommodates Vada. Of course, Rakta is the single dhadu which accommodates Pitta. Shleshma Shesheshu. In Rakta, Agni supported by Jala and Bhumi. That is so unique because Agni supported by Jala and Bhumi defines the Agni Shomiyata of Sharira. It is so unique, which is essential for survival. I'm not going to that aspect because that is why we attribute Jivanam for Rakta. In Asti needs Ghara Kadhina Gunas incorporated with the Snigdha Sthira Gunas in order to deliver its unique Dharana Karma. And this needs a special Bhaudik combination. Vayu supported by Bhumi and Akasha. So, what we were trying to understand or explain is that the Ashrayi relation between Dhadus and Doshas. This is very essential in understanding Sharira. As I told earlier, this is one way of understanding the Prakriti of Sharira, the baseline concept of Sharira, without the knowledge of which one cannot understand what is happening in Vikara. So, what we were trying to explain is that the Ashrayi relation between Dhadus and Doshas shows the Bhautik fingerprint of Dhadus and the corresponding Doshik association. The Bhaudik fingerprint of the Dhadus and the corresponding Doshik association. And this is important because this is an important appreciation of Bhuta, Dhatu, Dosha relation of Sharira. This Ashraya, many times we just read Tatrasthinis Thido Vayu Pittam tu Svedaraktayo Shleshma. At one point we read this. Later on at one other point we say that Pakvasya Kadi Sakti Shrotrastis Parsanendriyam Sthanam Vadasya. Then in some other point we read that Pranotra Murdhagaha Urakkandhacharaha. Like many lives, many masters, many doshas, many places. Same dosha, many places. We read it, we by heart it, we read it, we by heart it, and go ahead and start seeing everything with a different prajna. Because the prajna samskaranam is according to a different school. So this Ashrayi relation is an important appreciation of the Bhuta Dhatu Dosha relation that is existing in the Sharira. Here also, the idea of Samanya Vishesha is an important point of discussion. Idea of Samanya Vishesha is an important point of discussion. What is that? We find it Tenesham Ashrayashrayinam Mithaha Yadegasya Tadanyasya Vardhanakshapanaushadham. Tenesham Ashrayashrayinam Mithaha Yadegasya Tadanyasya Vardhanakshapanaushadham. Yadegasya Tadanyasya Vardhanakshapanaushadham. Here it is mentioned as Aushadham. Okay, let it be so. Yad ekasya vardhanaushadham tad anyasya api vardhanaushadham. Yad आश्रयस्य वर्धनौषधं तद आश्रयिणः अपि वर्धनौषधम्. यद आश्रयिणः वर्धनौषधं तद आश्रयस्यापि वर्धनौषधम्. Similarly, यद आश्रयस्य क्षपणौषधं तद आश्रयिणः अपि क्षपणौषधम्. And यद आश्रयिणः क्षपणौषधं तद आश्रयस्य अपि क्षपणौषधम्. Here we find somewhat a straightforward, simple equations of Samanya Vishesha. It is quite straightforward. There is no complexities. What is Samanyam here? Samanyam ekatvakaram. Samanyam hi tulyarthada. Tulyarthada hi samanyam. So samanyam hi tulyarthada. Samanyam वृद्धि कारणम सर्वदा सर्वभावानां सामान्यं वृद्धि कारणम. So सामान्यं तुल्यार्थदा, सामान्यं एकत्वकरम, सामान्यं वृद्धि कारणम. आश्रयम and ashrayi, they have tulyarthada between them in terms of bhuta gunas. Ashrayam and ashrayi are having tulyarthada between them in terms of bhuta gunas. So they behave as having or as ekatvakaram, and they cause vruddhi of each other. So an aushadha which brings vruddhi to ashraya causes vruddhi of ashrayi as well, and vice versa. Actually, the aushadha brings vruddhi of ashraya means vruddhi of the bhuta gunas of ashraya, vruddhi of the bhuta gunas of the ashraya. Ashrayi also owns the same bhuta gunas, and hence what happens? When there is vruddhi of ashraya, there is vruddhi of ashrayi as well. This happens to and fro. The term aushadha here is a representative of a group or a set which has aushadha, ahara and vihara in it as its members. So it is only a represent. That is why I told that, okay, it is, let it be so, it's an aushadha, fine. Now in the same lines of vruddhi, kshayam also can be understood. Yad egasya tad anyasya vardhana kshapanaushadham. An aushadha which causes kshapanam, kshayam of ashraya will cause the kshapanam of ashrayi as well, and vice versa. An aushadham which brings kshapanam to the ashrayi will bring the same to ashraya as well. This is also a straightforward application of Vishesha. What is Vishesha? Visheshastu Prithatva Kriti. Vishesham Ekatvakara Viparyayaha. Samanyam Ekatvakaram Visheshastu Viparyayaha. Vishesham is Khrasa Hetu. So, when an Aushadha, because of the Vishesha, that is Ekatvakara Viparyayatva, brings about Khrasa of Ashraya. Means bringing about a Khrasa in the Bhuta Gunas of the Ashraya. And as these Bhuta Gunas are shared with the Ashrayi, there happens a Khrasa of the same Bhuta Gunas of the Ashrayi, and thus a Khrasa of the Ashrayi is resulted. Now there are many things to be understood in this Bhuta Dhadu Dosha relation. That is an axis. In Sharira, there are many things to be understood, which are always left unattended, unaddressed, unexplained. The only interest that we are having in this is about the relation between Asti and Vayu, and why Tiktarasa is advised as the treatment there, which could be a 5-mark question in our university examination. Nothing else. Nothing else. We will come to it definitely in our next session, because we have already crossed our time. Before that, if there is one idea, something there in the chat box, I will see. Gravity of Bhudagni also can be understood in this way. According to the Prakriti of a peculiar person. Yeah, Prakriti, Sara, all these things are going to be the determining factor of the gravity of the relations between, or the connections between the bhutas in each individual. Dhadu Sarata, yes, that is the question in the next point. Also based on this difference in interaction and quality of bhutas in the dhatus. Yes. So we will conclude our session today. Thank you very much. Vishayam sadhurtanam bhadram agamasalinam. Abhyastakarmanam bhadram bhadram bhadrabhirashinam. My humble request is to read the text again and again without any sort of a prejudice, because as I mentioned in the beginning, this is not going to be a ready application in the clinics, but this is about how you start seeing things. That is the most crucial part in this sort of understanding. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. There is one more point, I think. Bhuta Guna's fingerprint in an Ashraya and Ashraya same, right? Can we say the Bhuta fingerprint is represented as the dosha? Bhuta fingerprint represented as dosha. The problem is that doshas are highly specific, like that Prithvi and Jala forms the Shleshma, Agneyam, Pittam, Vayu Agashabhyam, Vayuhu. Whereas Dhadu's fingerprint is more elaborate. Say, for example, even if Mamsa is having Bhuta predominance of Bhumi as the foremost, the way in which the remaining 4 are aligned is going to define the fingerprint of Mamsa Dhatu. So there is a slight modification required in that statement made by Ashwin. Please guide us how to know the access the recorded videos. Now 20 or 21 videos are available in the Mixcloud. So I will, yes, our RAV scholars, they will post the Mixcloud link in the WhatsApp group. So thank you very much. We'll meet again on next Wednesday. Thank you very much. Shubharatri.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.